Hi, everybody. I'm Bill Whittle, and this is the Firewall. Well, they say the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Sounds kind of hopeless, doesn't it? As if the good intentions create the road to hell? I think that has the causalities, good intentions leading to bad outcomes. I think it's got it completely backwards, and we're going to come back to that at the end, so don't you worry. So let's stay away from the emotional horror of the gulags and the death camps on the road to actual hell. And just to make a point, let's keep things manageable. Let's start by something small. Let's start by seeing how the path to heck is paved with good intentions. Now, one thing that pretty much everyone can agree on is that education is a good thing. Appropriate education, appropriate to what the individual hopes to do with their lives, is about mental, emotional, and spiritual growth, not to mention refining and improving our human capital in the workplace. That's about as good as a good intention can get. However, in the year 2000, student loans accounted for almost 3% of all consumer debt, but by 2012, that number had climbed to 10%. That's $1,000 billion in debt owed by students by the youngest working Americans. Now, one of the unforeseen but completely foreseeable consequences of opening up and federally guaranteeing student loans, what a great intention, has been to place $1 trillion of guaranteed real money on the table for colleges and universities to feed upon. And that's why the cost per credit of a college education has far outstripped the rate of inflation. Colleges are charging more and more money for the same education because that new money is available and it's guaranteed. Now, presumably, we take out a student loan to help us get a job. But what the latest in-depth study shows, you don't have to take my word for it, they have math, for God's sake, is that relatively small increases in student loan debt in fact causes a relatively large destruction of new jobs, not the creation of them, as your good intentions would lead you to expect. What these what these concise and easy to understand mathematical symbols show us, based on the latest real-world data, is that a student debt increase of one standard deviation, which in this case is about 4%, has a catastrophic impact on not just those students' personal economic future, but on the entire economy. These researchers have discovered that by raising the growth of student debt by one standard deviation from roughly 4% to roughly 8%, it kills dead 25% of new small business startups. Why? Well, because small businesses with 1 to 4 employees, which make up 99% of total businesses, 60% of private sector new jobs, and fully half of the total U.S. private sector economy, depend on personal credit in order to get started. A national increase in 4% of student loan debt takes off the table the available credit needed to start 25% of the total new small businesses in America. Even those students who didn't major in medieval Renaissance poetry, but rather something that they thought would help them in the real world of economic reality, end up owing so much money that they no longer are able to get the commercial loans they need to start their own small businesses once they graduate. The good intentions of getting an education in order to get a job has cost them the ability to get a job, because credit once available to start a business is no longer available due to their outstanding debt load. Now, I said earlier that I think we have this causality arrow backwards when we say that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. You see, it's not that our good intentions create the road to hell. It's that our good intentions blind us to the fact that we are doing real harm, not the good we intended. And this is why leftist progressivism fails not only on the path to heck, as with student loans, but on the road to actual hell. Government-controlled health care leads to rationed health care. Government-owned housing projects are petri dishes of crime and neglect. Government-funded EBT cards create entire generations of dependency and despair. And when you get to the end of it, you find that the so-called good intentions of a classless world of perfect income equality leads to secret police and gulags and punitive starvation and corruption and despair and inhumanity and the alcoholism needed to kill the guilt and fear of no less than 100 million murders by well-intentioned exterminators on the glorious socialist road to hell. All of these catastrophes, from student loans to the executions at secret police headquarters, are not caused by the good intentions of the left. They grow from the laws of unintended consequences and the irreparable fault line in human nature that the left refuses to accept. No, it's the good intentions of these so-called progressives that provides the internal fig leaf that allows them to perpetually look into their rosy glow of their noble hearts and nod out at the actual damage and the actual ruin, and eventually the actual horror that these leftist policies, however well-intentioned, really inflict on real people in the real world. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and be sure to visit us at truthrevolt.org. And to keep these messages coming, please consider making a donation by clicking here.